All right. Well, the 3.8 PTU is now officially here. Now, it's been here for a few days, but I haven't used it to make a video yet, and this is the first time I am going down to MicroTech. But before we get into all that, talk a little bit about ship news. And of course, this week we saw more to do with the Argo Mole. CIG very proud of the ship, wanting to show it off. I have to admit, I am not the most knowledgeable person when it comes to mining. In fact, very unknowledgeable. So I did have a few questions in regards to this ship, and I don't know. Hopefully, some of the people who do eventually acquire this ship for mining purposes can explain a little bit of it to me. And I don't want that to sound kind of like confrontational, like explain what the hell's the point of this thing. I'm a little bit. I wonder about the efficacy, the efficiency of having 3 mining drills more or less kind of working on one asteroid. Does that work? Or does it have enough range that you can grab like a position where you might be in range of 3 separate asteroids rather than all aiming at one asteroid, and you can kind of do 3 jobs at once? That was kind of like one of the big questions that I had. While it does seem like kind of a good idea, from what I understand, when you're mining an asteroid, you have to bring the heat up to a certain level, but not go over another certain level. You have to kind of keep it in that sweet spot. And so kind of coordinating that act with 3 people on one asteroid, I was like, how does that work exactly? So it's more functional questions. I don't think that this is anything game breaking once again, or anything that's going to be like, oh, this is obviously going to be an insurmountable problem, so don't buy it. Anything like that. But I was just wondering, I was hoping for a little bit more info in that regard, but I don't know. I guess it will be forthcoming, or probably in the Q&A, because I can't be the only one who has that question. But apart from that, this ship looks good. Once again, flight ready, which is a major plus in this day and age. So I'm going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. Now, mining, of course, not really my thing. I was a little bit unimpressed with this idea of, well, when they're talking about it, and we had to go back and we had to do more for mining, and we wanted to do more with mining. And I understand, you get your first iteration out there and you're probably thinking like, oh, I should have thought of this, oh, I should have thought of that, why don't we tweak it like this? Why don't we tweak it like that? There's obviously, once you get it out there and it's out in the live universe, you may want to you may quickly get a few ideas like, oh, we should have done this, or oh, we should have done that. But I understand that, the desire that once you got that creative momentum built up, to continue and carry that momentum forward and work on iterating that technology. But at the same time, as someone who has a salvage ship, I kind of feel like, why are we reiterating on mining when salvage has yet to make it into the game, even though salvage has been placed on the roadmap. I won't say promised, but placed on the roadmap multiple times, only to continuously be removed. But I don't want to really say a revamp, but a rework to a certain degree of the current mining mechanic kind of gets priority over a game system which is obviously very much desired, has a lot of fans in the community, as just like mining does, and has really not gotten any of the love that it kind of deserves. And I mean, I tried to rationalize. I thought, well, there's that Shubin mining station that they always show us in the Squadron 42 previews, and maybe they wanted to amp up mining because it's going to be part of that whole thing. But you also see the salvage ship in that, so I was kind of like, I don't know. So I mean, there's a little bit of, I guess, sour grapes for me on the fact that salvage has not even received a tier 0 implementation, when mining is now getting like another iteration of it. So that left me kind of unimpressed. But overall, I mean, for the miners, clearly a big win day, a lot more depth in their profession. I mean, even if you don't buy the mole, the addition of different mining heads and different functions that go along with those, adding depth and adding perhaps a little bit more realism to the game. I mean, who knows how space mining is actually going to work out, but it looks pretty good. It looks really big, like a big win for miners. So overall, I mean, if you're going to go out and get a mole, I feel that of the profession vessels, this is really a strong ship, because you get a lot of depth of gameplay out of it now, and you have a profession that works, and that's in the game. CIG, salvage, please. Anyways, moving on. First experience playing 3.8. So one of the things I did first when I got into 3.8 is I hopped into my Caterpillar and I took a trip to the new planet Canada. As you can see, well, it's actually called MicroTech, but if you've flown over Canada especially during the winter, looks strangely familiar. And it's really good. It is really good. The planet technology and the improvements that they've made in this with the newer worlds, it's certainly it's very difficult, though not impossible, to see the math. And by that I mean that's kind of like something that I say when you're talking about procedurally generated worlds. Sometimes you get jaggy edges, you get things floating in the air that shouldn't be, like trees, stuff like that, which even on a macro or a micro level, you can sometimes spot these things out. And when you fly into MicroTech, you'll see a few patches where you can see the jagged edges and you can see the right angles and whatnot, where things kind of come together. But overall, it does represent, in my eyes, an improvement over previous planets. And the city at MicroTech, New Babbage, as we kind of fly towards it, is very, very impressive. It's probably the best looking city that they've made in the game, and it actually kind of makes me feel like maybe Lorville at some point in the future is going to kind of need a little bit of a retouch, because Lorville looks, especially with the skyscrapers around Hurston Towers, looks a little bit World of Warcrafty, a little bit. It looks a little bit too much like scenery and not like real buildings. Whereas, here it looks a lot more like real buildings. Certainly Area 18 did a good job of that, and I think that this only improves upon it. But then again, that may be the natural setting that the city is planted in there. You can see some flying trees in the background. Overall, yeah, MicroTech looks really great. The weather effects were awesome. I was really blown away by that. There was a lot of stuff that, as I was flying into this world, that just really impressed me. And one of the things that impressed me the most, and I mean, I kind of knew it was coming, but to see it just blew my mind. Back in 2014, when we first got our hands on Arena Commander, back, I think, June of 2014, when most of us got our access, there was something wrong with Arena Commander. The HUD that you had in the ship could often be completely washed out by the background colors and the background brightness of what you were flying into, and so that kind of created a problem. And when we reported it, we were told that no, that's the way it's supposed to be by other players, not by CIG, mind you. And here's the fix. In 2019, the HUD has a drop shadow. Oh my god. I mean, the HUD is now usable in any environment. This is kind of like a nightmare environment to try and use this HUD. But now, with a drop shadow, it looks amazing. I mean, it was just that one little fix that we've been asking for ages. And it's finally here. And now you can see the difference. And now you can see, what we were talking about how important this is, because now it makes the HUD much more relevant, because it's not this unreliable problem anymore when you're flying in certain situations. It's something that you can use all the time. That's one of the things that, I wished it had been done a lot sooner. I know that there was always a lot of UI work being done in the background, so why spend time on something that you're going to get rid of? But it just seems like such a little thing. Now, I'm sure it's not like Photoshop and you just, click the drop shadow effect when you're compositing two images like I would do in a video in the beginning. You'll probably see it unless I forget to hit the button. There's going to be a drop shadow on the mole footage. But to see it now in game and making the HUD functional was really impressive. The other thing about 3.8 that really impressed me is, as I'm kind of slowly flying towards New Babbage, ? Yeah, New Babbage, the town here on MicroTech. I'm immediately kind of struck by the fact that this is probably the best looking city I think we've seen so far. Area 18 is really good, but once again, that's another situation where you can kind of really see the math when you're flying into the planet. There's a lot of things that just look like they were procedurally generated. They seem a little bit too systematic and systemic, especially the surface map of the planet. As when you're far away, there are certain points where when you're flying into it, especially around dawn or dusk, that you can kind of see the lines coming together in a seemingly unnatural way. And despite like the little odds and ends around here while you're flying into New Babbage that kind of stand out a little bit, like that shoreline that I just panned past, it really looks like one of the more natural environments that CIG has created, along with I would say Daymar and the new Yella are big standouts in that department. But this one, having the city and flying into what looks like a natural city, whereas Lorville, especially around where you see the skyscrapers beside the Hurston Tower in Lorville, looks more like stage dressing in a way that like a city in World of Warcraft would. This looks much more like a real living, breathing city where people live. It totally looks like something that is entirely a generation ahead of what came before it. And that was a really cool thing to see. I really, really enjoyed that. I mean, this moment flying into New Babbage, even though it warped me in at like 168 kilometers away, I enjoyed the total flight all the way down through the atmosphere. This was gorgeous. And I loved it. I loved every minute of it. It felt to me much more immersive, much more realistic than previous versions have in the past, especially flying down to planets. This felt more like I was going to an actual city. I guess there's some kind of intangible quality there that I really haven't been able to put my finger on. But this really felt like, oh my god, this felt like the Area 18 to a certain degree as well, but this, for the first time, I really was like, okay, this is a place on another planet. This is really cool. Or, once again, a city in Canada. But it was really awesome. I was completely blown away by this. It fit its setting, I guess, so much better than any of the other cities or any of the other planetary destinations. It really, really did. I was massively impressed with MicroTech, and to be perfectly honest, I didn't really study up on MicroTech all that much. I really wasn't all that interested in MicroTech, but from what I saw at CitizenCon and then seeing this here, I have to admit I am very, very impressed, and I'm kind of glad that I didn't study up on it all that much, because now I get to kind of learn it firsthand, So that I thought was really cool, along with the fact that, in previous CitizenCons, we would see stuff that is going to be delivered beyond the horizon, things that are way down the road, maybe a year, maybe 2 years away. But to see something that would be delivered so immediately was really impressive. I was just absolutely just overjoyed making this flight into this destination. This is, for me, I don't know, this kind of feels like the first time that Star Citizen has kind of really hit its stride in location creation and planet creation and everything like that. I almost, having seen MicroTech now, I almost kind of wish, especially with Lorville and Hurston, I kind of wish that would get kind of a second pass. I was really, really impressed with this. While smaller locations like Levski and Grim Hex have always been standouts in terms of quality and setting in the Star Citizen universe, cities like Lorville kind of seem a little bit weird and a little bit odd. And I was really happy to see that MicroTech kind of followed the Levski Grim Hex model, where it's built into something rather than something that feels like it was just, just dropped onto a location, which is kind of what Lorville feels like to me. It feels like someone just made it somewhere else and then just plunked it down on the map, whereas MicroTech seems to be built around its topography, and that to me it makes it much more realistic looking as a city and as a place to play. I think that it's a much more exciting venue to play from, so I might spend a lot of time hanging out way out here on the fringe of the solar system at MicroTech, because it's a damn cool location. Now, all of that being said, of course, I'm going to have to explore some more. I'm going to have to figure out more of how MicroTech works. Once again, I don't like to go in knowing too much. That's something that I've learned playing other games, is that when you kind of go into a patch knowing everything that's coming out, it does kind of dilute the fun a little bit. So I am really looking forward to this. This is one of those times when it's just like, I cannot wait for this video to finish rendering so I can go back and I can try to explore some more. The only real disappointment I had at all with this patch, and one of the things I want to highlight that I thought was really good, as well as being just a touch of a disappointment, was the fact that when you log in, you can choose your login location the first time you log in. So you can say Area 18, you can say Lorville, you can say Grim Hex. Fantastic. We've wanted that for so long, and the fact that it's here, amazing. Very ecstatic about that. Could not be happier. Why wasn't there a new Babbage one? That was the only question. That's the only drawback. But apart from that, the fact that feature as well made it into the game, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Slight improvement to that feature is if you can make it so that within a single solar system, when you log in, you can log into any of those major locations, even regardless of where you were. Like, let's say you went and you logged out at Grim Hex. Tomorrow you show up and you log in and you want to log in from MicroTech. I feel that there should be an allowance made to allow you to do that. Like, if you've been logged off for, say, X number of hours, you should be able to log in anywhere within the confines of that solar system where there is an actual login, logout location. Apart from that, so impressed, so overjoyed to see this. I can't wait to play it some more. And sometimes, when you play a certain patch in Star Citizen for too long, logging in to play the game is kind of like, ho-hum. But honestly, I am looking forward to the next time that I'm going to be logging into this game. I'm very excited to see what this looks like when it gets to live, and hopefully is a little bit more reliable. But right now, very optimistic, very impressed, and very much enjoying the game. Anyways, that's the show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thanks for watching. Now, I just got to figure out how the hell do you get into New Babbage.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.